Blake Lively once stood at the pinnacle of Hollywood celebrity, admired for her charm, style, and knack for making every role memorable. She embodied an aura of effortless grace, gracing red carpets alongside her equally beloved husband, Ryan Reynolds, and seemed positioned for a flawless transition into more serious acting and producing. But beneath that polished exterior, a tempest was building. Today, her name is entangled in multiple lawsuits, fraught accusations, and a public relations nightmare that has left fans reeling. How did one of Hollywood's bright lights find herself under such a menacing shadow? In December 2024, stories began trickling out from the set of It Ends With Us, a high-profile adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel. The project promised prestige and wide appeal, with Lively and Justin Baldoni at the helm. Yet rather than concluding as a cinematic triumph, their collaboration collapsed into a storm of legal wrangling, sensational headlines, and bitter hostility. Allegations against Baldoni initially cast him as the villain, an unprofessional co-star and director who trampled boundaries. But what seemed open and shut would soon split open into a labyrinth of counterclaims, hidden agendas, and moral complexities that no one could have predicted. And so, the question arises, how did Blake Lively, once revered for her approachable glamour and philanthropic pursuits, wind up battered by public opinion, struggling to salvage a plummeting reputation? The answer unspools in a gripping saga of power, plays, corporate politics, media manipulation, and personal ambition. This story is no mere gossip column. Real court filings, legitimate press exposés, and first-hand testimony underscore each new claim, painting a picture that shifts every time fresh evidence emerges. Strap in, the deeper you go, the more shocking each layer becomes. The spark of controversy before everything fell apart, It Ends With Us, held enormous promise. Blake Lively signed on to star and co-produce, while Justin Baldoni, known for his creative flair and philanthropic persona, took on dual roles as director and co-star. With a devoted fan base for the novel and two charismatic leads, the film seemed destined for acclaim. By late 2024, however, rumors emerged that Lively had filed formal complaints about Baldoni's on-set behavior. Whispers from the production crew suggested friction was brewing long before any official statement. According to Lively, Baldoni's directing style crossed lines. He improvised intimate scenes that extended far beyond their scripted boundaries, allegedly bit her lower lip during a close-up without consent, and neglected established intimacy protocols. She further claimed that some of his improvised material involved a minor-aged character in provocative contexts, an accusation that shocked onlookers and triggered immediate scrutiny. At first glance, Lively's revelations seemed poised to cement her status as a hero for speaking out. Her narrative painted Baldoni as a boundary-pushing tyrant who shrugged off the discomfort of his co-stars. She insisted that once she stood her ground, his team waged a covert campaign to tarnish her image and brand her as difficult. Hollywood watchers braced for an explosive confrontation, a beloved actress raising the alarm about misconduct, a powerful male figure who might have bankrolled a cover-up, and an industry that had already been called to account in the post-Me Too climate. But there were signs this wouldn't be just another instance of actress versus bad behavior. Cryptic hints circulated that the story ran deeper, involving clandestine deals, massive sums of money, and manipulative PR tactics. Soon, Lively's camp revealed an even more startling dimension: an investigative article in the New York Times that allegedly vindicated her claims. According to the exposé, people close to Baldoni had been caught conspiring to bury Lively if she dared speak out. It all looked damning for Baldoni, and sympathy firmly rested with Lively, for a time. The smoke in the mirror, a smear machine. The New York Times piece exploded like a grenade in Hollywood's press circles. Headlined with references to hidden smear campaigns, it seemed to confirm a sinister plot to crush Lively's credibility and shield Baldoni from scandal. Emails, text messages, and internal memos supposedly revealed how certain PR operatives intended to undermine and defame any potential whistleblower who posed a threat. Within days, Lively received an outpouring of support. Fellow actors rushed to her defense on social media, praising her bravery in confronting unprofessional conduct. For many, it appeared an obvious case of a powerful man attempting to muzzle a female colleague. The actress was championed as a warrior, standing up not just for herself, but for anyone who'd experienced toxic behavior at work. Yet, even as that wave of sympathy crested, voices from Baldoni's side emerged, pushing back hard. His representatives insisted the Times had peddled a one-sided narrative and selectively edited communication logs. They declared that if a smear campaign existed, it was orchestrated at higher levels without Baldoni's knowledge. Moreover, their press statements raised questions about Lively's own actions leading up to this disclosure. Suddenly, the once simple storyline of harassment and intimidation began to fray at the edges, hinting at manipulations by parties on both sides. Skeptics wondered, was Lively the lonely whistleblower she claimed to be, or were we witnessing a cunning stage play, meticulously choreographed to ensure her control over a major film production? Hollywood chatter grew more intense with each passing day. Fans craved clarity, but clarity was nowhere to be found. Only more sensational details were forthcoming. Baldoni's counterstrike on December 31st, 2024, Justin Baldoni detonated his own bombshell. He and a team of high-profile lawyers slapped the New York Times with a $250 million lawsuit for defamation, arguing that the paper had intentionally colluded with Lively. They cited suspicious timing, claiming the article dropped immediately after Lively's formal complaint to maximize Baldoni's public humiliation. According to his side, the coverage cherry-picked text messages and spliced quotes out of context to present Baldoni as a malevolent figure, ignoring any mention of Lively's possible motives. But Baldoni didn't stop there. He filed an even bigger civil lawsuit directly against Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Lively's publicist, a staggering $400 million claim for alleged extortion and sabotage. He described a scenario in which Lively used trumped-up allegations as leverage. If Baldoni resisted her creative visions for It Ends With Us, she'd unleash the PR weaponry at her disposal to ruin him. In his account, she forcibly took over the project, dictating edits, firing key members of the production staff loyal to Baldoni, and shutting him out of crucial decisions. The man who had once championed the film from its inception now found himself banned from the premiere. Observers couldn't quite believe the sums involved. $250 million aimed at the press, $400 million aimed at Lively herself, the eye-popping figures signaled just how personal this had become. Baldoni's determination to fight back, with every legal tool at his disposal, marked a pivotal turning point. Lively, once secure in her status as a beloved star, now stood accused of orchestrating an elaborate power play. The story that began with workplace inappropriateness had morphed into a far-reaching saga of multi-million-dollar lawsuits. Behind the scenes, some claimed Lively was rattled but resolute, still confident she had the moral high ground. Others whispered that she'd stepped onto a slippery slope. Either way, the battle lines were drawn in the courts, and the public was riveted. Power plays and Hollywood politics, wherever Blake Lively goes, Ryan Reynolds isn't far behind, so it didn't shock anyone that Reynolds entered the fray to defend his wife. According to Baldoni's filings, Reynolds invited Baldoni to a private meeting in their lavish penthouse, only to unleash an aggressive tirade. Baldoni recounted being verbally cornered, with Reynolds demanding a public apology for Lively. Then, in a more startling claim, Baldoni alleged Reynolds tried to strong-arm his talent agency into dropping him as a client. While WME denied that Reynolds forced their hand, the timing was suspicious. Baldoni was indeed fired by the agency just days after Lively's public accusations. Could that have been pure coincidence? Baldoni's supporters believed it was the product of intense arm-twisting from a Hollywood power couple known to have friends in high places. And if such influence had been quietly wielded before, it didn't bode well for anyone who dared oppose Lively and Reynolds on critical decisions. Industry whispers grew louder. Sony Pictures, the distributor for It Ends With Us, apparently sided with Lively's preferred version during the film's editing phase. Colleen Hoover, the novel's author, plus certain cast members, had also aligned with Lively. Did they do so because they believed in her cause, or were they reacting to behind-the-scenes pressure from a star with enormous clout? The entire situation left studios, agents, and creatives scrambling to align themselves with whichever side seemed safer. Nobody wanted to risk the wrath of either an A-list actress and her powerful spouse, or a director who had proven he'd sue at the slightest hint of defamation. Doubt began to creep into corners of the internet previously championing Lively. Could it be that she had indeed manipulated events from the start? If Baldoni was truly an unprofessional director, why were the lawsuits revolving around such dramatic sums and allegations of sabotage rather than focusing squarely on addressing misconduct? Confusion reigned, and the public appetite for details soared, shifting public opinion. One of the most visible measures of any celebrity's standing these days is social media. At first, Lively retained overwhelming sympathy. However, in the wake of Baldoni's massive countersuits, a surprising pivot occurred. She began bleeding Instagram followers at a rate never before seen in her career. In a span of a few months, she lost hundreds of thousands. Fans openly questioned her tactics, her authenticity, and the timing of her accusations. Baldoni, in contrast, gained an influx of supporters, people who felt perhaps he'd been maligned. By early 2025, the shift was undeniable. Lively's once rock-solid public image had cracked. This decline was more than a fleeting blip. Talent agencies started issuing careful statements. One of them, WME, took the unusual step of denying any influence from Reynolds or Lively regarding Baldoni's dismissal. Whether that was true or not, it was a red flag that the agency wanted no part in a superstar's war. Lively, sensing the tide turning, pushed for tighter reins on the legal proceedings, requesting protective orders and sealed documents. She claimed it was necessary to preserve her safety and privacy, especially with tensions escalating. Her critics countered that she was trying to hide inconvenient truths and shield the public from seeing evidence that might unravel her story. Meanwhile, the lines dividing friend from foe began to blur. In a climate where perception shapes careers, even the whiff of impropriety could spell financial disaster for anyone involved. Lively's co-stars, charitable partners, and promotional allies watched the meltdown with unease. Should they stand by her, or was it wise to remain silent until more facts emerged? And on Baldoni's side, the complexities were equally nerve-wracking. Though he gained supporters, people wondered if the allegations about him taking steps to muzzle Lively might eventually be proven true. Real legal documents had surfaced indicating some individuals in Baldoni's orbit had in fact planned to neutralize threats. If that was done without his explicit knowledge, would it still implicate him as part of a broader conspiracy? Observers realized they weren't dealing with a simple predator-victim dynamic. The closer you looked, the more you saw a swirling vortex of manipulations, half-truths, corporate alliances, and personal vendettas. One day, Lively appeared unstoppable. The next day, Baldoni looked vindicated, and it shifted with every new court filing. Explosive revelations. Even as fans struggled to make sense of the situation, new details erupted. Baldoni's former publicist, Stephanie Jones, sued him for wrongful termination, contending she discovered a burial plan that was being executed behind her back. In her lawsuit, she alleged that an employee at her firm, someone deeply connected to Baldoni's crisis PR strategist, was complicit in orchestrating a campaign to dismantle Lively's reputation. Suddenly, the worst of Lively's claims found backing from an insider. Texts and emails showed references to burying potential allegations, exploring ways to shift blame if Lively ever went public, and discussing strategies to keep everything quiet. Critics seized on this as evidence that indeed, a stealth operation had been readied, but Baldoni's defenders pointed out that his name appeared only indirectly in the messages, potentially insulating him from direct involvement. In February 2025, a judge presiding over the lawsuits admonished both parties to stop airing their animosity in press conferences and social media. He warned he might expedite the trial if they continued stoking publicity that could taint a future jury. But by that point, the damage was done. News outlets breathlessly covered every twist, and online communities devoured each snippet of insider gossip. The possibility of a gag order did little to subdue the rampant speculation. Indeed, the tension only increased as each side jockeyed to look more credible in public. Then came an amended complaint from Lively's legal team, stating they had two anonymous co-stars willing to testify Baldoni had pushed boundaries during filming. They claimed these actresses feared retaliation and insisted on confidentiality until trial. Baldoni's attorney blasted that as a weak maneuver, calling it a smokescreen with no immediate evidence. Each side accused the other of hypocrisy. Lively had once demanded transparency, yet now hid behind anonymity. Baldoni insisted he was squeaky clean, yet faced claims his associates planned takedowns. Both used the question, "What are they hiding?" as a rhetorical weapon, further muddying an already foggy battlefield. The industry takes cover. The Hollywood community, normally adept at damage control, seemed at a loss for how to navigate this fiasco, while top stars often handle controversies. Privately, here was a meltdown playing out in real time before a hungry media. Lively and Baldoni used to be pillars of respectability. She was a beloved fashion icon and comedic presence. He was a socially conscious filmmaker. Now they had become cautionary tales, each battered by an onslaught of negative coverage. Industry movers who once praised Lively found themselves either distancing from her or adopting a wait-and-see stance. Reynolds, ironically, faced his own mini backlash for being tangentially implicated in alleged strong-arm tactics. Their typical social media banter went silent. They stopped making their usual talk show appearances and were conspicuously absent from big Hollywood galas in early 2025, fueling whispers that they were ducking the swirl of questions about the lawsuits. On the film front, It Ends With Us did eventually premiere, though overshadowed by the behind-the-scenes strife. Reports indicated that Sony chose Lively's final cut, effectively sidelining Baldoni's directorial vision. Critics seemed lukewarm on the result, praising certain performances but hinting the movie felt uneven. Box office numbers were decent, but not spectacular, overshadowed by the avalanche of headlines that had consumed both leads. Some fans boycotted out of frustration with either Lively or Baldoni, yet others saw the film purely out of curiosity, to see if the real-life tension might be reflected on screen. Entertainment lawyers across town began dissecting the case as a prime example of what not to do in a Hollywood dispute. Instead of quiet settlements or mediated solutions, Lively and Baldoni escalated at every turn. The lawsuits soared to nearly impossible sums, each new filing more theatrical than the last. The result was a scorched earth approach that threatened to tarnish both parties beyond repair. The march toward trial in beyond a year remains before the scheduled 2026 trial, and the battle lines have only solidified. Lively's attorneys promise devastating revelations that will confirm Baldoni's disregard for boundaries, citing proof they claim to possess but have yet to fully reveal. Baldoni's team counters that he's the real victim, driven out of his own project, humiliated by a smear campaign, and forced into massive legal expenditures to defend himself. The tension is palpable, especially given how fervently each side insists they'll win if and when the case goes before a jury. Meanwhile, the online sphere reverberates with speculation. Once adoring fans of Lively dissect every snippet of testimony, pondering if she strategically engineered the entire scandal. Baldoni's fans highlight the unsavory details of Lively's alleged manipulations, quietly orchestrating press leaks, exerting influence on creative decisions, and forming alliances to isolate her co-star. Discussion boards are rife with theories and conspiracy-laden breakdowns of legal documents, each side convinced they know who is telling the truth. Celebrities from outside the immediate circle watch warily, mindful that associating with either party could draw them into a social media maelstrom. The Thunder Me Too era taught Hollywood to take claims of misconduct seriously. But this case defies a simple narrative. Legitimate calls for better on-set safety might be intertwined with personal vendettas, extortion attempts, or all of the above. For many, the safest position is to say nothing until the courts have their say. Amid the swirl of controversies, one fact stands out. Blake Lively's once unassailable reputation has been dealt a severe blow. Even if she emerges legally vindicated, repairing her public image may be a longer, more grueling process. Every step she's taken so far, from going public with her complaint to possibly orchestrating press coverage, has led critics to depict her as calculating rather than courageous. The actress, who once enjoyed near-universal goodwill, now faces A future in which fans and colleagues alike are more hesitant to align themselves with her? A flawed pursuit of justice or a self-inflicted downfall? At the heart of this tangled saga lies a vexing question. Did Blake Lively truly stand up for herself against questionable behavior, only to be met with retaliation and cunning legal tactics? Or did her own ambition push her into crossing ethical lines, deploying PR bombs, leveraging her husband's star power, and striving for total creative control? No matter which side ultimately wins, the damage is extensive. Lively's tumble from beloved A-lister to polarizing figure is startling, showcasing how swiftly public perception can shift in an era dominated by social media reaction and unrelenting news cycles. The unvarnished details disclosed in court. Papers depict a chaotic environment, secret strategies to smear or silence, alleged intimidation behind closed doors, and corporate muscle used to make or break careers. Justin Baldoni, once the subject of serious misconduct claims, has staged an aggressive counteroffensive that's disrupted Lively's heroic narrative. The star who cried foul may end up grappling with a court decision that highlights misjudgments on her own part, especially regarding the strategic release of information and possible manipulation of the media. Meanwhile, entire corporations, studios, agencies, and publishing outlets stand implicated in one way or another, forced to defend themselves against accusations of collusion or negligence. Observers can't help but sense a Shakespearean twist. An actress sets out to punish someone she sees as a threat, only to suffer a downfall of her own making. The lesson is sobering. In an industry rife with egos and money, the simplest conflict can evolve into a fiasco that consumes all involved. At stake isn't just a single film or reputation, but a cautionary blueprint for how unchecked ambition and retaliatory smears can spiral into all-out legal warfare. As the countdown to the 2026 trial continues, viewers and insiders alike remain on tenterhooks. Perhaps key evidence will solidify Lively's stance and expose Baldoni's alleged wrongdoing beyond a doubt. Alternatively, the court may rule in Baldoni's favor, painting Lively as the architect of an elaborate scheme. One thing is clear, the drama promises to intensify before any final gavel drops. For now, audiences around the world are left to ponder an unsettling reality. A once-adored Hollywood figure stands in the crosshairs, dogged by revelations that may redefine her legacy. Blake Lively's attempt to reclaim her power and protect other women from an unhealthy set environment has ironically thrown her own future into question. The spark of justice she sought to ignite flickered into a blaze that now threatens to engulf her career. Only time and an eventual legal verdict will reveal whether her reputation is salvageable or if she'll remain a symbol of how a righteous cause can mutate when pride and ambition get in the way. In the end, it's a sobering reminder. While the truth can set you free, it can also destroy you if you wield it recklessly. Blake Lively's story, once a fairy tale of fame and fortune, now stands as a complex cautionary tale, an epic meltdown where good intentions, well-honed PR strategies, and raw star power collided in a battle so fierce that no one has emerged unscathed. The final chapter remains unwritten, but the script so far has proven that sometimes the real drama unfolds outside the camera's frame, and that downfall can arrive faster than a flash on the red carpet.